that it's pretty simple. We need more growth and more frugality. A good example, Craig, a couple of the other folks who cover Wisconsin know I've talked about this for some time, having just come off of, in fact, guys, I'm the first governor ever elected twice in the same term, so it's kind of nice to hold that distinction. But
more votes this time.
Yeah, more votes this time. But you know, we had obviously at a smaller level, but it was very parallel to what we face in Washington. We came in last year, we had a $3.6 billion budget deficit, one of the biggest ever, and we'd just come off of 3 years of losing more than 100,000 jobs and having an unemployment rate at the peak that was over 9%. We knew we had both an economic and a fiscal crisis we had to tackle. And so we took swift, stern action. And it paid off. It paid off with results. We've now seen, instead of job loss, we've seen job growth. We've seen the lowest unemployment rate since 2008. And we see budgets that are balanced not only at the state, at the local level. In fact, we have a budget surplus, and for 2 consecutive years, we've set money aside to put in a rainy day fund. We do it at the state level. There's no reason why it can't be done here, but it's got to be the two together. It can't just be frugality. There's got to be growth. And I mentioned a little bit up there, but I went back and looked at these numbers again because it was 30 years ago that we were facing the same. In fact, in 1980, some of you will kick me for saying this, but in 1980, when President Reagan was elected, 2 days before I turned 13, and yet I still can remember, it wasn't just a referendum on President Carter's failed policies and the fact that life wasn't better 4 years later. It was fundamentally about a clear vision that President Reagan had, or candidate Reagan had at that time, about limited government, lower taxes, strong national defense, and he carried that out. And when he signed the Economic Recovery Act in 1981, in the fall of that year at the ranch, that opened the door for a reduction in the marginal tax rate that largely brought about the kind of growth that was sustained, the longest peacetime economic growth in American history. We've got to have an agenda that focuses on more growth. So I think from a national standpoint, not only do we need the stability of having some frugality in government, we need to have a pro-growth agenda that's going to lower the tax rate to put more money back in the hands of American consumers. We need certainty in terms of a repeal or change of the Affordable Care Act so that businesses, particularly small businesses, know what's going to happen in the future when it comes to health care. And we need to rein in particularly 2 key areas, the National Labor Relations Board and the EPA, so that our employers have certainty as to know exactly what's going to happen in the future in those 2 critical areas, because we can do all the good in the world at the state level, but if you have federal agencies run amok like that stand in the way of economic growth and prosperity, we're never going to be able to deal with this challenge. I think we can. I believe we can, but we've got to have a government that's willing to do it for us in Washington as well.